The crowd chanted his name, but he felt nothing. Under the stadium lights, a secret was bleeding through the cracks. His legacy was not built on greatness. It was built on lies no one was supposed to survive. The lights of Lisbon flickered as the city fell silent. A boy stood alone near the edge of the pitch, 12 years old, shivering from the Atlantic wind. His boots were 2 sizes too big. His eyes were wide, but hollow. He had just heard the coach whisper something he was never meant to hear. Too skinny. Too emotional. He will not last. The words burned into his skull like a brand. That night, he cried into his pillow, trying not to make a sound. No one back in Madeira knew how badly he wanted to run home. But he stayed. He trained harder, bled more, ached more, pushed until his legs gave out. Other boys laughed when he did 3,000 sit-ups. He heard them through the cracked windows of the dormitory. Ronaldo thinks he is better than us. Let him break himself. At 14, he collapsed on the field. Collapsed again the next week. Doctors ran tests. Then came the whisper again. Only this time, colder. There is something wrong with his heart. He was told he might never play again. His chest pounded at night, even while lying still. He stared at the ceiling in the hospital, counting the seconds between heartbeats. 1 second. 2. 3. Then a violent flutter. They called it tachycardia. He would need surgery. He signed the consent forms with trembling hands. He was alone. No parents. No agents. No fans. Just a boy with a dream and a malfunctioning heart. The morning of the surgery, he refused a wheelchair, walked himself to the operating room. The lights above him buzzed. Sterile. Cold. White. The anesthetic mask came down. He tried not to be afraid. But just before his vision faded, a single thought pierced through the haze. If I die today, the world will never know who I really am. He woke up with stitches in his chest and fire in his blood. Within days, he was back training. But something inside him had changed. He stopped speaking to other kids. Stopped smiling after goals. He trained like every session was a fight for survival. And then, something strange began to happen. Older boys started copying him. His drills, his movements, his obsessions. They mocked him when he was weak. Now they feared him when he was silent. But the real test had not come yet. It would come on a night soaked in rain. In a match where the scouts lined the stands. Where failure would mean exile, and success meant everything. He stepped onto the field, jersey soaked, ears ringing from the roar of the crowd. And in the final minute, something happened that would change everything. The ball came loose near midfield. A blur of feet, bodies crashing. Then, a scream, a sharp, awful sound. One player did not get up. Blood on the turf. Ronaldo stood frozen, eyes locked with the referees. And in that 1 second, the stadium fell into silence. The referee's whistle sliced through the air. Sharp, shrill, accusatory. Ronaldo's pulse surged, thudding in his ears louder than the crowd. He had not meant to hurt him. It was a 50-50 ball. But the other boy lay twisted, motionless, clutching his leg at an unnatural angle. The scouts leaned forward, pens frozen in midair. One of the coaches stormed the pitch. His voice cracked as he shouted Ronaldo's name. But it was not anger. It was fear. Fear that their most promising player had just ended his own career. Ronaldo looked down. His boot was red. Mud and blood. The rain had not stopped. It soaked his jersey, clung to his skin like guilt. A stretcher was brought out. The injured boy groaned, delirious with pain. His teammates circled around, glaring. Someone spat near Ronaldo's feet. The match was abandoned. The scouts left without speaking. Ronaldo walked off alone, ignoring the coach's calls. In the locker room, the lights flickered. Water dripped from a leaking ceiling. He sat on the bench, staring at his hands. They were trembling. He had trained his whole life for this night, and now it was stained, contaminated. He did not cry. He did not speak. He just stared, until a knock came at the door. Slow, methodical. A figure stepped in, a man in a black overcoat. He did not introduce himself, just looked Ronaldo dead in the eyes, and said 5 chilling words. We need to speak. Alone. Ronaldo hesitated. His instinct said run, but something in the man's gaze rooted him in place. The locker room felt colder now, as if the walls had absorbed what just happened on the field. The man's voice was low, measured, too calm. He asked Ronaldo about the tackle, asked if it was deliberate, if he had a temper, if he had ever blacked out, if he ever heard voices. The questions were wrong. Not football questions. Not questions a scout would ask. Ronaldo tried to speak, but the man cut him off. You were not supposed to be here. A pause. Then he pulled something from his coat. A photograph. Old. Faded. A picture of a boy on a field. Alone. His face obscured in shadow. But the posture. The stance. It was unmistakable. Ronaldo felt the blood drain from his face. It was him. But he had never seen this photo before. Never posed for it. Never stood on that field. The man leaned in, whispering now. Cristiano, they have been watching you since Madeira. You are not just an athlete. You are the result of something much larger. A sound echoed down the hallway. Footsteps. Fast. Urgent. The man froze. Slipped the photo back into his coat. Say nothing, he warned. And just like that, he was gone. Ronaldo stood, heart pounding. He walked to the door and peered out. No trace. Just the empty corridor. And the smell of wet turf. But when he turned back, the photograph was on the bench, right where he had been sitting. He picked it up with trembling hands, flipped it over. One word was scrawled on the back in hurried ink, replication. And just beneath it, a date, 4 years before he was born. He looked again at the shadowed figure in the photo. It looked like him, moved like him, but it was not him, because he had never been there. Had he? His stomach turned. The lights in the locker room flickered again, then went out, plunging him into darkness. Ronaldo froze. His breath came in shallow bursts. He could hear the distant hum of the rain outside, but inside the locker room, only silence. Thick, heavy, absolute. He reached out blindly, his fingers brushing against the cold metal of the locker. His heartbeat thundered in his chest. The photograph trembled in his hand. A low creak echoed from behind him. The door. Someone, or something, had entered. He turned sharply. Nothing. Just darkness. But he could feel it. A presence. Watching. Waiting. His mind raced back to the man's words. You were not supposed to be here. What did he mean? Why him? The air felt different now. Thinner. Harder to breathe. He stumbled toward the row of lockers, trying to find the exit. His foot kicked something. A bag? No. Soft. A body. He knelt down, hand searching. Flesh. Still warm. He recoiled. Then, light. Just a flicker. A phone screen, dim and blue, buzzed alive in the corner. A number on the display. Unknown. It began to ring. He hesitated, picked it up, pressed it to his ear. A voice, garbled by static, whispered a name he had never heard. Mateus. Then silence. No explanation. No goodbye. The call ended, and the light snapped back on. Fluorescent. Blinding. The locker room was empty again. No bag. No body. No phone. Only the photo in his hand, now slightly damp. He looked at it again. The image had changed. The boy's face was clearer. And now, unmistakably, it was not him, but he recognized the eyes. He had seen them once, years ago, in a photo at his grandmother's house, one she had hidden away, of a boy who vanished from Madeira in 1978. A boy no one in the family talked about, because they believed he never existed. And beneath the photo, new handwriting had appeared, this time in red. He was the first. Ronaldo staggered back, his knees almost giving out. What was this? A prank? A warning? A threat? He clutched the photo as if it could explain everything. His mind burned with questions, but one thought overpowered them all. If I am not the first, then what am I? A noise shattered his thoughts. Glass breaking. From the shower area, he turned toward it, slowly. The steam was already rising, but no one had turned the water on. And within the mist, a shadow moved, then stopped, facing him. unmoving, and just barely. A smile. Ronaldo backed away, eyes locked on the silhouette in the steam. His breath hitched. The smile did not fade. It widened. Not friendly, not human, just wrong. The figure stepped forward, 1 foot at a time. Slow, deliberate. Steam curled around it like smoke from something burning. Ronaldo's instinct screamed to run, but his legs would not move. The air around him grew heavy again, like he was sinking underwater. Every sound became muffled. Even his heartbeat sounded distant. The figure came closer. The outline of a face began to emerge through the haze. But it was not a stranger's face. It was his. Not a reflection. Not a trick. It was him. Same eyes. Same jawline. Same scar above the right brow. One he got falling off a bike at age 7. Ronaldo gasped. The figure raised its hand. So did he. A perfect mirror. Except there was something in the double's hand. A black object. Small. Metallic. Something surgical. A scalpel. The kind used to open flesh with precision. The smile remained. Unchanged. Unnatural. Then, without warning, the lights overhead popped, one by one. Bang. 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 Each explosion closer than the last. Sparks rained down like fireflies. The air filled with the acrid smell of burning wires and steam. The last bulb burst directly above his head. Glass sliced across his shoulder. But he did not feel it. All he could see was the other version of himself. Still walking forward. Still smiling. Scalpel glinting in the flicker of emergency light. A low hum began to rise. From the walls. From the floor. From inside his head. It was not a sound. It was a signal. A frequency. Too high to make sense. But he could feel it vibrating in his bones. In his teeth. Then, he dropped to his knees, clutching his ears. His vision blurred. The steam thickened again. And through it, the double reached out. Scalpel poised. Not to kill, but to cut. To open. To see what was inside. To confirm what he really was. Ronaldo screamed. Not in fear, but in protest. In denial. Because in that final second, as a blade neared his skin, he remembered something. A flash. A white room. A voice counting backwards. 3, 2, 1. A cold table. A silver light. And a whisper. Right before everything went black. Reset protocol initiated. His eyes snapped open. Blinding white. No more steam. No blood. No locker room. Just sterile silence. He was lying flat. Strapped down. Wrists. Ankles. Chest. The restraints bit into his skin with clinical indifference. Above him, a long mechanical arm hovered. Its tip shimmered with something sharp. Cold metal. A voice echoed from above, smooth and synthetic. Subject CR7 has been reactivated. He tried to speak, but his jaw refused to move. Numb. Detached. Like it was no longer part of him. On the far wall, a screen flickered to life. Data poured across it in a language he could not read. But then, his name appeared. Cristiano Ronaldo dos Santos Aveiro, followed by a line that made his blood run cold. Version 5.6, sequence integrity, unstable. The screen blinked. A new image loaded. A series of photos. Faces, each almost identical. Boys from different decades. Different countries. Same jawline. Same fire in their eyes. Some were blurred. Some marked with a red X. But at the very bottom, his face. No X. Just one word beneath it. Active. He tried to scream, but no sound came. The room pulsed with a low, droning hum. A countdown began flashing on the screen. 60 seconds. 59. 58. A hiss of gas filled the air. Sweet. Toxic. His vision blurred again. He thrashed against the restraints, panic flooding every nerve. A second voice joined the first. Deeper. Human. Run final diagnostics. We cannot risk another anomaly. A door hissed open somewhere behind him. Footsteps. Slow. Rhythmic. Closer. Then, a face leaned into view, half covered by a surgical mask. But the eyes. He knew those eyes. They were his mother's. Older now, tired, but unmistakable. And yet, something was wrong. She looked at him like a stranger, like a failed experiment. Her voice trembled. I told them to stop after 4. You were never supposed to wake up. The countdown hit 20. 19. Her hand hovered over a switch on the wall, marked in red. Terminate instance. He shook his head violently, pleading with his eyes. She hesitated, just for a second, and in that second, the lights flickered, the screen glitched, and every photo on the wall, every face, turned toward him, eyes open, smiling, exactly like his. The lights dimmed. A high-pitched tone rang out, so sharp it felt like glass shattering inside his skull. His body convulsed against the restraints. The screen above him blinked again, now flashing. Sequence breach detected. All instances syncing. The smiling faces on the wall began to move. Not just images in them all. Video. Each version of him, staring straight ahead, mouthing something in perfect unison. He could not hear it, but he understood it. We remember. The countdown hit 10. His mother's hand hovered, trembling, over the terminate switch. Tears streamed down her cheeks. You were my son once, she whispered. You were real. For a moment. 9. 8. He tried again to speak, but only a faint breath escaped. His body burned with electricity, as if something deep inside him was being rewritten. 7. The screen glitched. The room flickered. Then it changed. Not just a lighting. The walls. Gone. Now he was on a football pitch. Empty. A shadowed stadium. Rain falling in slow motion. He was standing. Breathing. Moving again. No scars. No restraints. But something felt off. Too quiet. Too perfect. Across the field. Another figure. Waiting. Wearing his jersey. Same number. Same walk. Same stance. But this one was smiling and holding the ball, as if to say, come take it. Ronaldo stepped forward. The pitch echoed beneath his boots like metal. The grass, too green. The air, too still. He looked to the crowd. Not faces, just eyes. Hundreds, thousands. All identical. All his. Watching, judging, expecting. The other Ronaldo dropped the ball. It rolled perfectly to his feet. He stopped, looked down. It was not a ball. It was a photo. The same faded photo. Only now, his face was gone. Erased. And in its place, a new word etched in jagged black. Override. The moment he read it, the world around him began to collapse. The stadium twisted. The eyes blinked out. The field cracked open. And from below, hands. Reaching. Grasping, clawing toward him. He stumbled back, slipped, fell, and as he plunged into the void, he heard it again. The voice, the first voice, calm, cold, mechanical. Cristiano Ronaldo, prototype 5.6. Termination incomplete. Manual control activated. Then, he opened his eyes again, back on the metal table, straps now loose. Room silent, empty, but on his chest, etched into his skin like a brand, a number, 6.0, and across the room, barely visible through the flickering lights, a mirror, and standing inside it, something was watching, waiting, smiling. Ronaldo sat up. Every muscle in his body ached, stiff like he had been frozen. The sterile scent of antiseptic clung to the air. He swung his legs off the table. The floor was colder than ice. His bare feet stuck for a moment, as if the ground itself wanted to hold him. He took a step toward the mirror. It rippled, not like glass, like water, but only on one side. The figure inside it, his reflection, remained still, expressionless, unblinking. He raised his hand. So did the figure, but half a second too late. Not a mirror, a window. To where? He did not know. He stared into the eyes of the thing on the other side. It was him, but colder, more perfect, a version uncracked by pressure, unburdened by memory. Then its mouth moved, a whisper, only visible by the shape of the lips. 3 words, You are late. Suddenly, lights in the corridor outside blinked red. A low drone pulsed through the walls. An alarm, but not one designed for people. More like a signal for machines. On the floor beside the surgical table, something began to move. A panel slid open. A hand, metal, skeletal, reached out from the compartment. It clawed upward, gripping the edge. Another followed, then a head, chrome, featureless, and yet unmistakably shaped like his own. It crawled out, stood upright, taller than him, more rigid. Its chest flickered with symbols. Then Ronaldo's name, and below it, final phase initiated. He backed away slowly, toward the exit, but the corridor behind the mirror had changed. No longer walls, now screens. Every screen showing a moment from his life. His goals, his interviews, his smiles. But in each frame, something was off. Background shifting, people vanishing mid-frame, time stuttering like a damaged film reel. And then new footage. Footage he had never seen, never lived, but starring him. Or them. Clones, iterations, training, competing, failing, erased. One by one, those screens turned to static, and the voice returned. From nowhere, from everywhere. Cold, inevitable. This version must adapt or be retired. Free will no longer align with optimal performance. He sprinted toward the door. It opened, automatically, revealing a long, dark tunnel. No walls, just light above, blinking like a heartbeat. Far ahead, a silhouette, not running, waiting, back-toned, wearing the same number. Number 7. As he approached, the figure stepped forward into the light. Ronaldo stopped dead. The face, it was perfect. Too perfect. No scars. No fatigue. Not even pores. Like a wax figure with muscle. The clone spoke. Same voice. Same accent. But empty. Hello. I have your speed. I have your skill. I have your body. But you have the floor. Behind them, machines stirred. Electric arms arced with blue lightning. The tunnel shook, ceiling cracked, and somewhere in the darkness, something else awakened. He could hear it crawling, fast, heavy, mechanical joints grinding with rage. Then, a distant hiss, the sound of a massive vault unlocking, and a single word echoed across the tunnel, one he could barely understand. But he felt it, deep in his spine, in his blood, reabsorption. And then they began to run, all of them, the clones, the machines, the broken experiments, all converging on him. And as he turned to flee, sprinting through the endless tunnel, the lights above him blinked faster, faster, and then one final message flickered across every surface. The original must not escape. His lungs burned. The tunnel stretched endlessly before him. No doors, no exits, just a pulse of white lights flashing like a countdown to annihilation. Behind him, the storm grew louder. Footfalls, metal slamming against metal, the shriek of hydraulics and the static-laced screams of his own voice, dozens of them. Every clone was calling for him, begging, mocking, mimicking. You are obsolete. You are the virus. You were never meant to last. He pushed harder, faster, his feet pounding against the ground, echoing like drum beats through a tomb. His body began to betray him, muscles seizing, vision narrowing, as if his own biology had been programmed to fail. But he kept going. The lights above flickered violently, then one shattered. Glass rained down on him, sliced across his shoulder. He did not stop. Another light burst, then another. Darkness chased his heels. He felt it gaining. Hot breath of machines. Razor fingers swiping just inches from his back. Suddenly, a fork in the tunnel. One path veering down into pure black. The other bathed in pulsing red light. Neither inviting. No signs. No guidance. Only the sound behind him, rising, howling now. His name, distorted, twisted. Rereneo Dio. He veered right, toward the red. The heat hit him instantly. The walls here throbbed, like muscle around a beating heart. Pipes pulsed. Steam hissed from invisible vents. and ahead, a massive circular door. Steel, engraved with a 7-point symbol. Familiar, almost ancient. He approached, and it reacted. The door hissed open, revealing a chamber that did not match the rest. A cavernous space, organic walls pulsing with faint light. At the center, a column of black fluid floated upward, suspended in glass. And inside it, another body, floating. His body, eyes closed, motionless, but his, perfect, preserved, the original. The room dimmed. A voice crackled through hidden speakers, no longer cold, now gentle, warm, like a father speaking to a son. You were not built. You were discovered. Anomalies cannot be replicated, but we can contain them. The chamber vibrated, heavy lock sealing behind him. He turned to run, but too late. Gas hissed from vents. His knees buckled. The red faded from his vision, and through the haze, the preserved body opened its eyes. Alive, awake, watching him, and smiling. He collapsed onto the metal floor, chest heaving, vision dimming, and the preserved version of himself, fully conscious now, stepped from the chamber. Fluid dripped from its skin like sweat, but it moved without hesitation, without emotion, as if it had been waiting years for this moment. He reached for the door, but it locked with a final hiss. He was trapped. His double knelt beside him, not to help, to observe, to study, eyes scanning every inch of him like a machine verifying a broken part. You are the first, the double said, the only one that felt. He stared back, weak but defiant. What are you? He asked. The clone did not answer. Instead, it looked toward the glass column, toward the array of screens flickering to life around the chamber, each showing a different face. Children, young athletes, each marked with the same 7-point symbol. They called it a project, the double said, but it was a cage. A hidden door in the chamber slid open, a corridor beyond it, lined with glass pods. Inside each, a body, some complete, some shattered, all unfinished, all abandoned. He realized the truth. He was not the best. He was the only one who had survived long enough to ask why. His success had not been destiny. It had been design. A test. His memories, his triumphs, his heartbreak, the crowd's roar, were not solely his. They were part of a script, a system meant to fabricate greatness. But in him, something had broken free. He felt, he chose, and that was a failure they could not reproduce. The double stood. Your data ends here, it said, but he spoke through the pain. My story does not. He launched forward, one final burst of strength, and smashed the chamber controls. The glass shattered. Sparks flew. Alarm screamed. Gas erupted into the room, shorting circuits. The clone stumbled, glitched, flickered like a broken projection. And then it froze, silent, expressionless. As the room collapsed around them, he crawled to the door. It groaned, then buckled. He pushed through, dragging his battered body out into the corridor. Behind him, flames consumed the chamber. The screen with his name sparked once, then went dark. He escaped the facility before dawn. Drenched, burned, but alive. Weeks passed before anyone found him. They did not believe his story. They said he was delusional, a man haunted by greatness. But he remembered every face, every voice, every lie, and the truth, that greatness without humanity is a hollow crown, that perfection without pain is a lifeless shell, and that what made him real, what made him legend, was not how he was made, but that he chose to rise again and again when the world tried to define him. The lesson was never about strength. It was about soul, because a perfect machine may win the game, but only a human can leave behind a legacy.